Eric Cartman simply shoved burgers up his ass and managed to cripple the entire fast food industry. And he was able to do this only because Cartman is a natural entrepreneur.
Randy, you're breaking my balls here.
It would seem that a selfish child who grows up without a father, who has learned to manipulate his mother, who fulfills all his whims, should be helpless in an open world that is very hostile in itself. But no, Cartman clearly understands the structure of the world, and if his mother cannot fulfill his wish, then he is not afraid to take matters into his own hands. For example, in the episode The Streaming Wars, when Cartman tried to persuade his mother to make her silicone boobs, but she refused. By the way, this is one of the few times when she directly refused Cartman's whims. But he didn't lose his head, he just went and inserted silicone boobs into himself, because the money for the operation had already been paid. I agree, he demonstrated unconventional thinking and complete determination to achieve his goal. These qualities are necessary for an entrepreneur. Returning to S-Burgers, Cartman initially did not plan to open his own restaurant, but simply wanted to skip school, and for this purpose he made up a non-existent illness, but they did not believe him. However, it turned out that burgers, stewed in Cartman's ass, acquire a unique taste, and as soon as Kyle voiced his thoughts, Cartman opened his own establishment in the shortest possible time, having demonstrated his organization skills, and as a result, he was able to inflict huge losses on the entire fast food industry. Such giants as McDonald's, KFC, Domino's, and others. In fact, Cartman, having no experience in the catering industry, was able to create a competitive product in a very short period of time which could possibly develop into a franchise. And this is not an accident, since Cartman repeated his success many times in completely different areas. In the 9th episode of the 7th season, Eric forms his own rock band because of a bet with Stan and Kyle. Again, a completely new area for Cartman. Again, lack of experience. But he does not waste time. Cartman conducted a thorough analysis of the music industry, found his niche there, in the shortest possible time assembled a band, personally developed the concept, and wrote the material. And what happened? While Stan and Kyle were doing some bullshit, Cartman achieved success, was able to bring the band to the world level. Here, he was able to reveal himself as a producer, but as we know, even if you are lucky twice, it is still an accident, so a third example is needed to consolidate the result. To prove my point that Cartman is a born entrepreneur, I will give an example when Eric creates a successful business, even when he himself does not want it. In the episode Cartmanland, Eric becomes the owner of an entire amusement park. He just wanted to have fun and not stand in constant lines that annoyed him before. So he banned everyone else from visiting the park. By doing this, he unknowingly created an artificial shortage and increased demand for attractions. However, Cartman quickly faces the reality that his park needs security, the rides need constant repairs, and to use the park's other services, additional staff is also needed, who must be paid a salary.
816 people can come into the park today!
Again, in the shortest possible time, Eric turned an unprofitable amusement park into a profitable business. What is that if not a talent? Self-organization and attentiveness are two more qualities than an entrepreneur must possess. Let's analyze the episode Die Hippie Die, in which Cartman is engaged in catching hippies. At the beginning of the episode, we see how Eric finds a group of hippies at the home of an old woman. He demonstrates his professionalism. Cartman knows the habits of hippies and how to deal with them, and the fact that he came in full gear confirms this. We see that he is not an amateur. In fact, Cartman was the first to notice the oddity of the hippie migration and start sounding the alarm. He saw a threat coming to his town and immediately took action, rather than waiting for someone to come and solve the problem, although he was not obligated to do so. Yes, his methods were radical, but as it turned out, there was a point, because the city government and the police simply did nothing, underestimating the seriousness of the situation, and when everything got out of control, the mayor was forced to turn to Cartman to solve the problem, who was right from the very beginning. In this episode, Eric is a patriot of South Park, and his work here is volunteer rather than entrepreneurial, but all the qualities he demonstrates are necessary for a successful business plan. He has caught the trends, studied the material, and be able to capitalize on them. In Cartman's case, he's capitalized on the fact that the hippies have left town.
Whee!
It should be noted that Eric is also very attentive. He notices even insignificant moments and uses them to his advantage. For example, a woman is simply eating chipotle, but Eric sees this and assumes that she is experiencing the same problem that he has with eating chipotle, and uses this in a dialogue with her.
Oh yes, it's my favorite fast food. I would eat it every day, except
you can't afford buying all the new underwear?
Or the policeman is playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and it's Cartman who tells him about the cinematic mode, so he can negotiate freedom for himself and his friends. All these qualities that I listed indicate one thing: Cartman is a leader. As proof of this, let's analyze the 8th episode of the 10th season. The kids just wanted to play World of Warcraft, but some no-lifer pumped up his character and now prevents others from playing, killing everyone in a row. Here Eric once again demonstrates his organizational skills, gathering all his friends and developing a plan to eliminate the maniac. But the plan failed. However, Eric does not give up. He shows persistence, gathers a smaller squad of 4 friends, develops another plan that required a long leveling of characters. That is a lot time and effort. In fact, this is a full-fledged training system. And it worked. Already on the 2nd try, they were able to defeat that guy. You could argue that the deciding factor was that Stan's father, Randy, handed him the Sword of 1,000 Truths, and that it was with its help that they were able to defeat the maniac. But if it weren't for Cartman, who strongly prepared for the battle that lasted dozens of hours, Randy simply wouldn't have had time to hand over the sword. The guys wouldn't have lasted that long. In fact, Cartman's biggest flaw as a businessman is his lack of experience. He should have kept the secret ingredient of his Asburgers better. Then his restaurant would not have closed. And if he had been more experienced, he would have known that he would not get a platinum album. However, for his age, he was able to achieve great success. I hope I was able to show this side of Cartman's personality. That's all I have for now. Thanks for your time.